Hey now, happy Wednesday.
Hey, hey.
You
Yeah. Happy
ready to
afternoon,
do this?
everyone. It's a great day because I've already gotten the weather wrong today. That's always pretty exciting. Now that we added these 2 p.m. shows, it's like we get a live look at how my morning forecast went. Didn't mess it up by all that much. It looks like I'm going to miss it by a degree, which come on, people, that's not so bad. Sunny skies today, some passing clouds here and there. It is another hot day, but the good news is it is not a very humid day. I mean, the dew points are still in the 60s right now, so we are going to have some humidity in the area. But 88 degrees was my anticipated high. I should change that to 89. That's what ended up being the high temperature. It looks like that's where we'll end up. Humidity levels are high, but not as bad as they've been in the past, with dew points right now in the low 60s. That's much better news. 7-day forecast shows temperatures in the 90s pretty much here on out, with less humidity until about Sunday. So a nice weekend. Probably won't see much in the way of rain. And then we get the mugginess and the storms to come back into next week.
All right, John, we'll forgive you if you mess up on warm temperatures, but
Just
once
1 degree.
cold, once it's cold, now we can't let that slide. So you
All
got
right.
some time to get your stuff together, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, everyone, let's bring in here our next guest. She went viral on Facebook when she posted this video of her son going into cardiac arrest after begging for a different treatment for him. Take a listen.
Oh, my son is dying and no one has done anything, and I've been begging you guys all day to help my son, and you wait till his heart rate goes to 0 to help him. You wait till his heart rate goes to 0.
Jessica Burnside joins us now to tell us her side of the story, her experiences of being in and out of hospitals with her son. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
You know, I can't imagine as a mother, as someone who is looking at doctors for answers in a situation like this, to feel hopeless, to feel like there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. And I think that it wasn't just this moment, but it's been, 4 years of a lot of the times feeling unheard, situation after situation, even, leading up to that moment and what happened. They were trying to send me home and was telling me that my son looked great and his heart rate was half of what it normally is. And he was septic and out of it and not waking up and extremely sick. And everyone's like, looks great. You can go home. And so I think I'm sensitive to the whole thing personally, because it's been a lot of that over the years, all the time, feeling like I have to push all the time to be taken seriously, sending me home in the midst of really crazy situations that if I would have folded and went home, my son wouldn't be here today. So leading up to that happening, they were trying to send me home, and I had posted on my Facebook page because I was extremely desperate. And I just said to all of my friends and family on Facebook, I'm here at the hospital. They want me to go home. His heart rate is half. Please go put these reviews. I had no idea that he was going to code. So I'd asked for help about an hour before he coded. And all I can say was I always have my phone out, because even before that, he was having really scary seizures, and I was trying to get people to come to the room, and it was just taking a long time. Every time I would finally get someone, I would, hit the light and they wouldn't come. And so 2-3 minutes later, I'm running in the halls trying to grab people. So for some reason at that moment, I felt like I'm not going to get help. And it's something that I think has kind of been happening to the African American community lately, where we feel like I'm not going to get help. And if I don't record this, no one's going to believe me, or I'm not going to get the help I needed. So this wasn't just a moment. This is 4 years of my son fighting for his life. This is 4 years of having to prove I'm worthy of a certain level of care, and having to overcome stereotypes, as if, any of that matters anyway. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you deserve treatment, and consideration. But unfortunately, it's not that way.
Before we go any further, how is your son doing right now?
Yeah. So Seth, he has more than 9 lives. And he's actually doing good. He's laughing, and he's getting a little bit back to himself. He's not completely himself. And the medical team, you know, definitely we've got their attention now, and they have promised to do everything they can and get him the shunt that he needs to have a chance.
I want to try to be as specific as possible because a lot of people think that it is a preposterous idea that systemic racism also would be taking over our healthcare system. Wouldn't all doctors and nurses try to help? What are the ways that you're seeing it affect you and your family?
Yeah, so the crazy part about it is, you know, I grew up in a predominantly white community. So as an African-American woman, I think that a lot of the times until your white friends like tell you like, hey, that's not normal. You don't even like, you're not walking around looking like, you're going to be racist today. You're going to hate me today. You know, you don't walk around like that. So it was actually Seth's home care nurses, specifically his white nurse, Michael, who had come to us to different appointments in different hospitals and in different experiences. And she would say, I'm with special needs kids all the time. I, you know, have a son his age as well. And that is not normal. You should not be getting talked to that way. You should not be getting dismissed that way. And there's been times where like she was with him and we'd get sent home from the hospital and he has like a deadly brain infection and no one, you know, like unless you're pushing to actually get the treatment, they're like, oh, it's okay. There was a time where my kid's head grew 10 centimeters in 1 month, and I was taking him to the doctor every other day, and they told me, well, your head's big, so his head is probably just growing. Wow. I all the time, I don't get asked, you know, do you have other kids? I get asked, how many kids do you have? What's your Medicaid number? Do you work? All the time, and I feel like I'm always as if I had 10 kids and I was on Medicaid, and it doesn't matter. You know, everyone deserves fair and equal treatment, but it's almost like playing this game of having to prove I'm of a certain caliber for you to think that my child's life is worthy of it. I've had nurses tell me before that when you came to this hospital, and this wasn't University of Chicago, this was another one, we had another girl saying, can you save my baby? Can you save my child? And we saved her son, and she ended up putting her son in an institution, and it was a predominantly white hospital. And she said, honestly, the team kept comparing you to this girl. And I was like, what do they have in common? Like besides them being Black? So I have story after story, but most of the time it's being afraid to speak up. I have friends who've witnessed me at the University of Chicago literally just ask a question and be told off or called aggressive, or I've had people walk away from me because I asked a question. And so I am that person that tips toe. I want to be everybody's best friend. I want to be everybody's good guy. And so I don't speak up. And so it's friends and nurses and people who are with me that are like, look, sis, this is not normal. You need to speak up. And so that panicked, out of my mind, scared moment was a buildup of 4 years of feeling super helpless and being scared to speak up on my son's behalf.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Jessica, and it takes so much to do that. I'm sure that when you were first starting to share your story, you thought about how and when and where you should post it and all, but have people come up to you, and you mentioned it a little bit, and said, hey, thank you so much for having the courage that I have yet to get or that I don't have at all. I mean, that's also super powerful too.
Yeah, I mean, there was this temptation, right? Because we all have this inner self-preservation. We want people to think we're good. We want people to like us. And so I think speaking up at the hospital was super hard because I have known these people for years, a lot of them. And some of them even said like, you know, we're hurt, you know? And so it was this thing of like, I know I've grown on you and everyone knows Mrs. Burnside, she's such a good mom and, you know, be nice to her. But then I see even others getting treated worse than me because they haven't built up whatever reputation that I took time to build up to get the treatment. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when this happened and the university started meeting with me and asking me what I wanted, you know, like, what do you want? what do you want? Like, and so my, his father and myself got together and we prayed and we said, well, what do we want? And I said, well, it's not enough for you to just treat me better, because now the red carpet has been rolled out for me. But I have all these mothers reaching out to me, some Black with dead children, denied autopsies, don't even understand or know why their children have died, have never been to therapy. I'm personally paying for therapy for several women right now that just reached out to me at the time. My first question is like, do you have therapy? So I sent them all to my therapist, and I'm, paying for therapy for them. I think, but one of the things that I told the university was, I know you guys want this to go away and you want your reputation to be shined in a good light. And me as a human being, I just want my son to get the best care and him to get the help. But I think if we both focus on the greater picture and how this, quite frankly, embarrassing and scary moment for us both can now be turned around to help people. And so I think I was tempted at first to kind of let it go and just make sure Seth was doing good. But then there was just so many thousands of people that reach out, even nurses that reached out that had cared for Seth, that came on my platform and said, I witnessed him being treated different and wanted to speak out about it. And that's when I realized like this wasn't about me. And we have to move fast and use this terrible, scary situation to help people.
The cell phone has really been the great equalizer in many things. We see it with over-policing too. Do you recommend that everyone, when they are feeling in a vulnerable moment, to get out that phone? Because there is some accountability, then you can create change through that.
You know what? It's I think that you just have to live in your truth and in your moment. So for me, I didn't have enough time to sit and be like, okay, let's record. Like literally I was shaking, I was losing it, I was going crazy. They rushed over to my son, my phone was in my hand, and I was like, go live, and you guys are on camera, so you better help my son, like kind of thing. Right. So people ask me like, would you take it back? And I do feel bad because I know like now, like even at the hospital, I would walk through the halls and everyone's like, there's that girl who's creepy. So many different people, came over to me telling, on staff at the hospital, and we're like, we don't think you should have done that. We don't like that you did that. And they were like, nurses are uncomfortable now. They don't want to come in your room, all these different stuff that comes from it. But all I know is that in my specific situation, I feel like it helped. And at that moment, I wasn't thinking about being a civil rights leader. I wasn't thinking about I was thinking about something drastic that I had to do to make sure that my son was resuscitated. So I can't speak on anyone's behalf on what they should do in a situation. I think at first I wanted to take it back because I felt bad for the nurses and doctors who have been great to me and kind to me over the years and didn't want them to get a bad rap. But I think, again, it became to be like, this is not about you, Jessica. This is about the truth of what's going on in the world. And so people are like, would you take it back? And I'm like, well, no, because I had to think about it. And that is how I felt. And that is what I believed. I wasn't just angry and spewing off stuff that I didn't truly feel. And many times as a Black woman, especially a Black woman who was grown up in a white community, we are afraid to say, because we don't want our white friends not to like us. So we kind of let racism and prejudice kind of just happen. And we hear our friends say prejudice stuff. We have friends and family that say incriminating things to us. And we don't say anything because we want to be everybody's favorite Black friend. And so go ahead.
And I think what you're going with, just that first reaction was the realest, most honest reaction that you were going for, that you were expressing just as a mother, as someone that was feeling helpless at the time. You wanted help. And I think that's what people need to connect is to that human side initially, just that human side of everything before they dig deeper and they start talking about nurses and the position here and the position there. No, it was a boy in need and a mother in need. They needed help. Thank you.
Yeah. And so many people, at first when the video started going viral, I read like maybe 20 comments, and then I decided that I wasn't going to read it anymore because of, people were saying crazy things. And you get to a certain point or maybe age in your life where you're just like, I know who I am. And I know I'm a great mother. And I can come out and say that because you haven't lived my life. You haven't stayed up at night for 2 years straight because you didn't have nursing care for your son. You haven't resuscitated your kid yourself. You haven't had your kid cold and have to step back in a board meeting and run it. You haven't had your kid cold and have to step on stage and sing and counsel people and preach to people. That's what I've had to do. So none of you have walked my shoes. And so I kind of just think like people are like, she's crazy. Heck yeah. You would be crazy too.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
that tape, I think that video is that raw emotion
My
that I
goodness.
can't even imagine what you're going through. I think it was brave for you to do that and brave of you to leave it up there. If nothing else gets a conversation started that is way too overdue. Thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we do have a graphic to put on up. Boy, what a story and just an important conversation to have. Jessica Love is on Twitter, on Facebook as well, jessicalovemusic.com. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the music. And next time, Jessica, okay?
Yes, yes. I just want everybody to know that we have started an organization. We are working with the university to bring equality for all. We have justice and equality programs that we're launching with the University of Chicago, as well as providing counseling and advocacy and coaching for parents and home nursing. So this whole thing has allowed us to start this organization. So if you go to sethslullaby.org or jessicaloveis.com, you can donate to the efforts of helping to end systematic racism in the healthcare system, as well as provide practical and real and on-time help for mothers who have lost children or who are currently fighting for their children's lives.
Amen.
Jessica, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
I
And
know.
we've had this conversation with especially Black women in hospitals too, being disrespected by doctors and not listening to what they have to say and discounting their complaints, their genuine concerns about themselves and their bodies, and discounting it. And that conversation is just getting started, and it needs a lot more focus.
A brave woman there. We're going to keep it going. We want to introduce you to our next guest because she is America's sweetheart on Say Yes to the Dress. And now she's launched her own podcast. We've got wedding dress designer Haley Page. She's joining us and just here to share some razzle and some dazzle with us. Hey, Haley.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing good and we're super excited to meet you. We have several people who are watching who are just like, oh, she's coming. I want her to do my dress.
Oh, I'm so grateful to hear that.
Yes, yes. So how has the wedding industry been since we've been in dealing with COVID-19?
Well, this is an unprecedented time, to say the least. And there's been a lot of necessary pivots and changes. And I think my focus has really just been on the emotional side of things because I am a bride as well, but being a designer in the industry, I just know how much weight and emotion and excitement goes into planning a wedding day and looking forward to that and then having to replan or change it. It's just so frustrating. And it requires a lot of empathy, I think.
Yeah, and I imagine that because it's supposed to be. There's so much buildup to a wedding, not only the year leading up to it, but like for many people, a lifetime worth of dreams. So how have you been able to help brides through this? Is it about just holding their hand, well, maybe over a Zoom meeting or whatever it is, and just saying, "Hey, we're gonna get through this"? I imagine you're half therapist as much as you are designing the dresses.
Yeah, actually, social media has really been the most beneficial platform in being accessible to our brides. And I've always been very emphatic about running my own social media, and it is my personal account. So I stalk my brides just as much as they stalk me. And I try to create just a place for them to feel like they belong. They can reach out to me personally if they have questions or they want to plan a surprise for one of their friends who's a bride to be. I actually crashed a bachelorette party via Zoom a couple weeks ago. And, just trying to figure out creative ways to still show up for these brides and let them know, I don't need to just be your designer. I want to be an advocate for you and for your love and for this big moment. And that's been really major. And it's been helpful for me too, because I think we all long for a sense of community right now, and social media allows us to do that.
And right off of that, Haley, you created this podcast, right? To continue that community, to continue those conversations that we need, that little distraction to keep us sane during these times. So tell me a little bit more about the idea behind creating a podcast.
Yes, the podcast is called All That Glitters, and it's available for free anywhere podcasts are found. But it's a project that my fiance and I really felt strongly about because it was a way to just provide more context to our content. And I think we're all in need of something that feels joyful and positive and encouraging. And so doing that through a relationship at this time is just a unique way to let people feel like, we're learning as we go along. We're not love experts, but we do want to help you fulfill your best life and make you feel joy throughout the process of whether you're single, you're in a relationship, or you're trying to make your love lasting. And it's so funny because I've been on tons of interviews and I have my social media, but a podcast it's so vulnerable. And so what we hope is that it, again, just creates this whole new medium for people to just engage and feel like, okay, you're a real person and there's another layer of authenticity here that we can kind of tap into.
So congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
Yeah, so exciting. Are you going to be designing your own dress? How does that work?
Oh, yes, girl. I cannot wait. I've really not given it a whole lot of thought yet, and I'm sure I might dabble in a few different styles. I think as a designer, you're kind of always moving on to, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And so by the time I design a dress, I am already wanting to move on to the next one. So I feel like the way to kind of accommodate and navigate that ever-changing brain is just to say, okay, I'm going to wear like 3 or 4 dresses.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what does a designer do? Because you're with all of the glitz and the glamour literally every day of your life. So how do you make your day even more special, your dress even more special than what you see all the time?
That's such a good question. I think it's so important to really have a strong sense of self in this process. And really with weddings, the big thing is making decisions. And it's so hard because the minute you commit to something and have conviction, you don't want to feel like, oh, I have dress remorse. I want something else now. Or, so I feel like the whole process is really about being in touch with yourself and really what you want to express that day. And, I always get asked, how do you know when it's the dress? And I always say, it's like, something overcomes you. And it's not one particular thing. It's just like love itself. It just happens and you have to embrace the moment.
You don't do 2?
I think so. At least 2, because I need the ball gown moment. I need the fitted moment.
Right.
Right.
At least 2. I think you have to. I mean, since you have the option, obviously.
I'm very lucky in that. So I feel what would be great is to create a few different looks and then offer them on the collection so that everybody can have access to it. But it'll be fun once I get to it.
Haley, you're an insider in the industry, so I gotta know, because, coronavirus aside, there's still gonna be the same number of marriages over the next few years. It's just gonna be a lot more compact. Are you mentally ready for the overwhelming amount of weddings that 2021 and 2022 are going to bring as people have had to delay theirs?
I am always ready for weddings. Wedding season is forever up here for me.
Do you think there's going to be a backlog? I mean, because every Friday, Saturday next year is going to be filled.
I'm excited for it, to be honest. I think the more we can create a meaningful space for people to feel like they can celebrate their love in any capacity, the better off we'll all be. And so it's definitely going to be a race in a way, because everybody's kind of trying to get their dates set and their new dates, and there's going to be a lot more celebration. And I just hope that people don't feel like they're compromising on such an amazing day for them. So I'm ready.
Yeah, there you go. Haley, we have one of our producers, Tina, who, by the way, in the Facebook comment says she's like, Haley Page will design my wedding dress hands down, but she wants to know, how did you know that you wanted to be a wedding designer? When did it come to you? And how did you start a business at such a young age?
So my journey is definitely not very formulaic, because I was always attracted to design, and specifically weddings, because of just the emotional capacity and the romance behind it. But growing up, I was always like, okay, I got to go be a doctor or a lawyer, or be something that involves science and math. And I always struggled with the conviction of it. And so something that I tell young aspiring designers is that it's okay to have doubts and it's okay to feel unsure of where your path is going to go. But if you keep your passions at the forefront and keep those visualizations of your dream very much alive and present while you're learning everything else, you know, things come together. And that happened for me at Cornell. In school, I was overlapping pre-med with fiber science and apparel design. And I just needed validation. And I got it there. I started to understand how design is a viable profession and how I could really foresee it being a pathway for me. So my college experience was a big part of that, but you know, everybody's experience really is different. So it's good to know that you're forever a work in progress.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage. What so what's your favorite part of weddings specifically?
I just feel like the moment where like you're committing to this person and it is such a all hands on deck supportive situation. You have family and friends there and it's just about these two people coming together and making a new life together. And it, you know, honestly, I am not unfazed by it. For how many weddings I've been to and how many beautiful brides I've met, it's still just such a magical thing that I believe in love. And I think that's really what has encouraged me to continue to show up and believe in it. And so I think it's just all about this entire conglomerate of things coming together in support of love. And that's the best part of the wedding. And it's the best part of motivating the designs itself. And it's really, design is storytelling, and love stories are the best stories to tell.
So when I think about when you look at old wedding photos, I think my eyes always go to the dress because you want to see how a design has changed. Do you ever, I mean, I don't want to put that much, you know, responsibility on you because I'm sure you don't ever want any of your dresses to look out of style. So do you kind of weigh that when you're designing dresses, that you're designing for what's in, what's cool, but also things that are timeless? Or do you not care? Just if it looks good right now, that's good enough for everyone?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like I'm very much an of the moment designer. So I believe that if you love it and you're in your moment and this dress is speaking to you, that is your dress. I think sometimes when we put too much pressure on ourselves of how this dress is going to look in 10, 50 years, you know, and that's what's going to guide your decision, it can sometimes get a little bit clouded. And I think that there's nothing better than looking at pictures from the 60s and 70s and 80s and just seeing these fabulous moments and these dresses that, you know, transcend time really, because a lot of the details and nuances come back to life through contemporary design. So I guess I would be more of the latter, in that you've got to celebrate your moment and whatever is speaking to you, go with it.
Yeah, I like that too. Plus, it's always fun. It's a time capsule. You get to see what the fashion was. You don't get to judge anyone back then. You weren't around then. It doesn't matter.
Totally.
I'm literally watching here in awe because all you guys are married or engaged or whatever, and I'm just waiting.
Girl, I'll be ready for you when you're ready.
Gianna's dress, I know already, is going to be so over the top. You will make a beautiful bride when the time comes.
Oh, stop.
Yes.
Love that. When in doubt, go all out.
Yes. Okay, so what's it like being on Say Yes to the Dress? I mean, what a cool show. Kleinfeld's really, really cool opportunity for a lot of brides. I mean, and then you were an extra bonus on that show as well. What's that like?
Yeah, you know, I think the best part of that show is that it's so real. There's nothing scripted. I just get to kind of walk in, be a designer. It's at a trunk show and it just makes sense. And I think part of the reason it's been on so long is because it's so genuine. It's real moments, and you know, everyone loves weddings and everybody loves that major moment where you say yes to the dress, and it never gets old. So I love being a part of that show. Randy Finoli is like the most amazing human being, so wonderful and genuine, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it. And we did a spinoff series this past season called Say Yes to the Dress America, and we married 52 couples around the United States, every state including Puerto Rico and DC, and it was just such a unique take on camaraderie in the industry. And when you're all in the same place at the same time and that same magic moment, it was pretty cool. So I was America's bridesmaid. I think I've been a bridesmaid now triple digits. So
Yeah, that's so cute. So
Oh,
cute.
well, that's great. Haley, you're a real joy to talk to, a breath of fresh air and
Thank
a
you.
bright, shining light for us today. Thanks so much. I can see why people want to work with you. Let's get the information up on the screen for all of the great things that she does and where you can find out more information to follow up with Haley on Instagram at Miss Haley Page and All That Glitters on the gram. And you can listen to her podcast, All That Glitters, and check out her designs at jlmcouture.com/Haley-Page. Thanks, Haley.
thank you
There
so
you
much for
go.
having me. Take care.
My second wedding. She'll do my second wedding.
Girl,
Oh, I'm there.
your vows,
To
renewal.
the same person. Second wedding to the
Yes.
same person.
Vow renewals. Watch what you're saying. I was going to say, Felicia, ooh. Quarantine's not going so well, huh?
Don't start now. Don't start now. Felicia, read the next story. Come on, let's get out of
No,
here.
I want the full experience though. I don't want like vow renewal implies that it's going to be a little bit less or a little less fancy. That's not true.
Hey, maybe our next guest can help make sure that you and Teddy stay good for a while. Segway!
Yes, I hope so, right?
Yeah, we're spicing things up now with good friend of the show, Naomi Morgan, joining us again to talk all things sex, especially during the quarantine. Oh, I love when you come on, girl.
I love being on. Hey, everybody.
Hey, hey. Taomi, we need help. We got questions.
Doesn't everybody, though? It seems like the world is hyper focused on sex now that we have more time to actually focus on it, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, some of us, because some of us are busier than normal.
Yeah, that's true.
So how have you seen this quarantine, COVID-19, current events kind of affect people that you chat with? Are we kind of still okay talking about it? Are we kind of putting it on the back burner?
It really just seems like ever since this thing started, consistently, people are focusing on it more, and they're focusing on different aspects of their sexuality. Like one piece that's come up a lot is the mental health piece around sex. So people are now realizing that mental health has a huge impact on your sex life. And so people are now choosing to really focus in a lot more on maintaining their mental health, or at least tending to it if they haven't in the past, by seeking out therapy and really facing a lot of the things that they've been kind of like repressing or putting to the back of their mind, because they see that it's been a hindrance in their ability to connect either with themselves sexually or with their partners intimately. So that's one thing I've been seeing. And then a lot of people just really want to spice it up and try new things. Those who aren't in that kind of a situation
Oh, no.
or living solo, they
Okay.
have gone.
You froze for a second. You're good now. Sorry. Keep
Oh,
going.
okay. Those who don't live like with a partner and they live alone, some people have actually chosen to go into celibacy or abstinence because they're like, well, I don't have a partner, and that is their preferred way to interact sexually. So they're kind of just saying, I'm just going to forego it. I'm not going to, do anything, not even play with myself. And so one thing I've been doing is encouraging these people to kind of expand what their ideas of sex is. So maybe, self-pleasuring through masturbation isn't your thing, but there are so many other ways that you can experiment with yourself and play, especially when you kind of move into the area of kink, that can still give you that rush of endorphins and dopamine and oxytocin, all those feel-good chemicals that have such great health benefits without actually doing the deed. So there's going up, especially like some couples have actually kind of focused in on the issues that they haven't even been focusing on in their relationships because they've had to work or they've been out of the house. And so spending so much time together has kind of put a big magnifying glass on those issues. And so sex is like, okay, we're going to put this right here for a second. Let's focus on these things that we haven't been talking about, like our lack of communication or the fact that we actually haven't been having sex that much at all. Let's talk about, what's going on here. So it's been popping up in so many different ways. And I've just been creating spaces for people to feel safe to talk and just giving people new ideas and ways to kind of flex their sexuality and explore a little bit.
So I was golfing with a few buddies, and I won't name names, but all of them said that their libido was down during this time, more than they thought. And I think it has to do a little bit with what you're talking about at the beginning, but also since we are working from home and home is usually where we do the deed, it is interesting. I think that our spaces are changing, and it kind of takes some of the, I don't know, the fun out of some of the, because you're working where you're playing.
Exactly. That's why I think it's like really healthy to create a separate space. Like, don't work in your bedroom if you can help it. You know, if you have enough space to be able to create another workspace, designate that space for your work. But it totally does kind of like drive down the libido, because think about it. If you're working from home, it's like you're accessible now from home. When you were at the office, it's like once your office hours are done, people only contact you if there was like an emergency. But now that you're working from home, it's like your boss can just ring your phone at any time. And it's like, so it kind of kills the mood because you're always on alert, and it's kind of job that you have. If you do demanding, then it's kind of hard to just relax into the idea of experiencing pleasure when you think about your boss might be calling you at 11:30 at night, interrupting your session. You know what I mean? So I can see that being the case for a lot of people, and just the amount of stress that people are under with just trying to maintain their family dynamic and just trying to, deal with what our new normal is. High stress levels definitely drives down the libido.
Mm-hmm. To John's point, is it normal not to want sex right now or anytime?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are actually people in this world who don't have any sexual desire at all innately. And I know it's like, it may seem strange to people who have a natural desire for sex, but there are asexual people in this world who they still crave intimacy, but not in the way where intercourse is involved. They just don't have sexual feelings. But especially right now, for those who have had sexual desire in the past and like, I'm just not really in. It's completely normal to feel that way. I mean, we are living in some stressful, uncertain times. We really don't know how things are changing from day to day. And so I always say the one thing that goes first in the body when we're in like a preservation mode is libido, because your body's like, all right, we don't really need this right now. You're not trying to procreate. And also you can live without this for a moment. I'm just trying to keep your head and your heart together. So let me do that. So as soon as the stress piles on, anxiety builds up, the libido is like, boof, nowhere to be found. So it's completely understandable. And especially if you don't have the space physically or even the time to be able to, even just fantasize and think about what you would want to do or how to do it, especially when you have a bunch of kids in the house and you don't have the room to really like send them somewhere else. You don't feel safe sending them somewhere else.
Naomi, let's just
There's
say, because
so
you
many
mentioned,
factors.
sorry to interrupt. We had a little lag. Sorry to interrupt you, girl. To your point that you were mentioning earlier, it's for individuals who are like, you know what, I'm going to take it easy. I don't want to engage in any sexual activity. It's important to know though, what happens to your body once you start getting into that process again?
It's so interesting because if you go without sex for a little while, one of the things that you can experience is like this deep desire and longing for touch. We resonate with touch, and, not being able to have that type of intimate connection with another person can sometimes create not just low libido, but like low self-esteem. Anxiety can increase, and just the feelings of isolation. And sex in itself, it has so many health benefits, which is releasing all of these good chemicals into the body, reducing anxiety and depression and boosting your mood. So when you're not getting that regular dose of like feel good chemicals, it's like you're moving into that space now where your body's like, okay, I'm being deprived of things that are absolutely beneficial. So when you move back into that space, for some people, there can be a bit of performance anxiety or just anxiety around connection in general. I mean, with us practicing social distancing and being encouraged consistently to stay 6 feet away from each other, when you get back into a space of wanting to be intimate, it's like, how do you do that when the fear has been like programmed in your mind? So there is a sort of like reprogramming that we have to do, especially if you are in isolation and not living with anybody, when you decide to go back into the world and interact with people, and say, it is completely okay to touch someone. It's completely okay to embrace somebody, especially when you know they're healthy, they're COVID free, and and you're COVID free. So just really reminding yourself of that, humans, we're supposed to have this kind of interact. It's necessary.
Mhm. I'm wondering if, you need to approach this as a situation of, just let it happen. Maybe if you're stressed, or if you have so many other things going on in the world, do you need to just say, okay, we're not going to have sex right now, and maybe revisit it next month, revisit the situation next month? Is that probably a better approach? Because I'm imagining it could create more stress to try and fix it. And now you're like trying to fix it on top of all the other stress and anxiety you already have.
Absolutely. Couples should definitely not stress themselves out with this idea that they have to be having sex. If you both feel like, this is not working for us right now, it's always going to be there. The option's always going to be there. It's not like your genitals are going to run off and leave you. You know what I mean? They're there. So, and desire may shift, libido may shift, but at the same time, you have control over all of that. Turn it down. So, I really do encourage couples to just kind of assess where they are. And if you just feel like right now is not the time, then put it off until another time when you both feel like you're ready to mutually come back to that space.
Yeah. Tayomi, this has been, as always, a great chance to catch up with you. We're going to have to chat again soon sometime, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Always.
Thanks,
I am
Tayomi.
always inspired after a conversation with Tayomi. I won't even tell you what happens next. So keep up with Tayomi at Real Glamazon Tayomi and Glamorotica101.com.
Oh, awesome.
Let's get Brandon Pope in here if he's ready to talk a little sports. We talked about at 11:45 about what was going on with, I forgot what we talked about at 11:45. I don't even remember. But we're talking a little bit about baseball here, but more than just baseball. There's a couple interesting things happening. First of all, minor league baseball has announced that they will not be playing their season. Brandon, obviously, Major League says they're going forward. This is a big deal for the minor leagues completely to shut down.
Well, yeah, it's a big deal because, they use the minor leagues to build up talent for the MLB. So is that going to stunt the growth of these developed talents over time? It's a loss for a lot of those communities, too, that have those minor league teams. Really sucks.
Yeah.
That's what COVID-19 is doing. It's cutting a lot of stuff that we love,
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's like not only the jobs, obviously, of the players who, they don't make that much money in the minor leagues, and they ride those buses. And, when you are an athlete and you're what? Let's say when you come into the leagues, you're 18. What, you've got 5 years, 6 years, 10 years maybe? To lose an entire year could have such an impact on those players' futures. But then, yeah, the teams, the players, they supply a lot of jobs to minor league baseball.
Yeah. I hear you talking about the community impact, the implications of it all. But as far as the players and everything, it's almost like, I wonder if we could create like a scale in terms of how we're letting these players go back and how they develop and how we're letting them into the major league. If there's some kind of transition, if it's going to be holding everybody back in that sense.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, it's tough to see for sure.
Yeah, the other big story, I think it came out yesterday, but it was Ian Desmond, who played for the Nationals, plays for Colorado. He's been in the league 10 or 11 years or so. He's not going to play this 2020 season. There's been a few others too. And coronavirus was part of the decision, but also he had a lengthy statement on Instagram about the George Floyd murder, how that really stoked inside him some memories, past and present, of a racist background in terms of playing in high school and all of the players on his team putting their hands in the middle and saying white power to break the circle. Even with black players on the team, I think he said they had 2 teammates, to homophobia and stuff. I thought it was pretty powerful for him to come out and say all that he said.
Yeah, it's powerful, and baseball is behind when it comes to inclusivity in their sport. And I think that's one reason why the NBA and the NFL have been able to grow so much, while baseball is still kind of seen as number 3 to those, because while baseball seems to be stuck in tradition and the way it used to be in the good old boys club, the others are more inclusive and open. So it's good that he's speaking to this, and hopefully someone up top in the Major League Baseball organization is listening. But what we also need is more Major League Baseball players to speak up, and like big stars to speak up as well.
I think that would make a huge difference. I mean, we can also see the impact that these organizations as a whole, what the impact that it has on the sport as well as the players. As you just mentioned, the NBA is extremely progressive in how they approach some of these tougher topics to discuss and how the sport relates to it. You don't see that so much with the NFL. It's completely different. And that kind of sets the tone for how the league operates within itself.
Yeah, and it's amazing that baseball has really seen at the major league levels a huge decline in black athletes playing baseball. And it's also at the collegiate levels, down to 8% of baseball players, professional baseball players, are black. In a Division I scholarship athletes for black players is 6%. And there were points where there was almost a quarter of the league was black in the 70s and 80s. And this is a real issue that Major League Baseball needs to tackle if it's going to have any luck inspiring the next generation to play the sport.
There's a lot of reasons for that, John, but I think the biggest reason, kids don't think baseball is cool anymore.
Yeah.
Where's the cool? Where's the swagger? We want bat flips, okay?
Yeah, and that's why anytime some grumpy old white dude gets upset with a player for flipping a bat or just yelling a little bit at the pitcher, a little jarring back and forth, the game has to change. And this is the fun part of the game. There are exciting players out there that other players can't wait to bring down and fans can't wait to bring down. Hey, you better embrace this fun, young, new style, or you ain't going to have a sport to watch for too much longer.
But that's kind of the nature of the game. How do you progress forward but still not dampen what baseball is all about and what it was created to do?
You dampen it. Like, that's how you do it. No, seriously, like, I love baseball. I grew up with it, and I used to be like the rules of, pitch inside. You don't show up a pitcher, all that. It took a little while to break me out of the mold, but you just got to realize it ends up being more fun. Life's a lot more fun when you just forget some of these timeless rules. And when you realize that a lot of these timeless rules are written in code of, like, I don't want to say racist tendencies, but certainly white preferred tendencies of what they've been for so long. Yeah. It's way more fun to embrace a more diverse, energetic, fun brand of baseball.
100%.
Okay, I could see it.
Yeah, you could see it. Good.
I could see it. Well, I mean, I just don't know if it's just the rules. I think it's just the culture, it's the nature of the game. And then, of course, on the community side, we can talk about systemically how it's available.
Yeah.
What kind of access people have to it. It's
that's another one.
To slap some pavement down and put a pole with a hoop on it than it is to have an entire baseball field and an organized team.
And Ian Desmond hit on that. He even said that he was walking through baseball fields that are hardly used anymore by local communities. Baseball has turned into a sport where you have traveling teams. That's a lot of money. That is a barrier to entry for young people playing. What happened to just a bunch of little towns having their own baseball teams where every kid could play for free or $20? All you need is a glove. The team provides the rest of the stuff. That ain't there anymore.
Yeah. And a lot of times in my community, I always saw local businesses supporting their little league team. So,
and I'm sure it's still happening in a lot of communities. It's not as prevalent as it used to be.
Access is key.
All right, Brendan, you going to stick around for the game or what?
Why not? Let's do it.
Amen. Don't cheat, all right? So we are going to play
Hey, guys.
game.
Hey, y'all.
Krista.
What's up, Krista?
I popped in. I want to see Brandon Pope do a backflip.
A backflip.
Backflip for
We were
baseball.
talking about backflips.
I could never. I think she thought when I said backflip, I meant a backflip, but no.
Bat flip.
Oh,
Bat flip.
Oh, I actually thought he said backflip too.
thank you. Well, that just shows you guys where I'm at with sports, and that's why
I'm
y'all
like,
are
what
bringing me in
baseball
on the
game?
game.
Yeah, I'm like, what baseball game is he watching?
Hey, Ozzie Smith, former Cardinal shortstop, used to come out and do a backflip at the start of every single game. So
I want gymnastics in baseball.
that's how we liven it up. Yeah, you got to do cartwheels to first base, otherwise, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready to play a little game called
Let's
the
play it.
3-second rule? Or is it 5-second rule? 5 seconds.
How do you play it?
So I'm going to give you a category, and you've got to name 3 things in that category in 5 seconds. So, for example, what are 3 types of cereal? I'd go Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Rice Chex, and Cheerios. Boom, I did it, okay?
Rice check.
Okay.
What are rice checks?
Never had Rice Chex before?
No.
They don't have a lot of sugar in them. Older people eat it. Don't worry about it.
Look, we didn't have Lucky Charms. We had Happy Shapes, if you know what
Yeah, store brand. All right. Okay. Well, since you volunteered that, Deanna, you're going to go first. All right. Ready?
There we go.
Name 3 different types of vehicles.
Mercedes-Benz, Tahoe, and Toyota Camrys?
Yeah, we'll give it to her. It was in 6. That was fine. You were doing brands, but that works too. All right, Brandon Pope.
Let's
3
do it.
things you wear in the summer.
Wait, say it again.
3 things you wear in the summer.
Oh, okay. Shorts, sunglasses, jorts, tank tops, and hats, bucket hats.
I'm glad you got tank top in there because jorts are shorts. So
Now, what are jorts?
jean shorts.
They're
You know
jean
those?
shorts.
Alicia.
Or we could just call them shorts.
Well,
I think they're their own separate category, honestly.
There's different materials for
Wow.
shorts. There's
Mhm.
twill shorts.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
don't see me
I see.
call skirts. Like it's just a skirt.
That's a good
No,
one.
that's a
We
jean
should.
skirt.
All right, Felicia, be careful with this one, okay?
Ooh.
Name 3 things that begin with the letter D.
Uh,
Dog and doubt.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh.
All right, Krista Green.
Yeah.
Name 3 Walt Disney movies.
Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid.
Yeah, you got it. I
you
started the
go.
clock a little early, so we're gonna give you that one. Nice.
This is the most stress-inducing game ever.
Yeah,
I
one
know,
in a
I'm
row.
sweating.
It's easy or no?
I'm sweating because I'm next.
All right,
I know. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Diana Gutierrez. Name 3 types of birds.
Pigeons, seagulls, and
No!
Cardinal.
First
Cardinal.
Day. Only 2 Dianas.
Cardinals. Dang.
That's okay. All right, Mr. Brandon Pope. Name 3 Christmas songs.
Winter Wonderland, Wish You a Merry Christmas, and Jolly Holiday.
Jolly holiday.
What's Jolly Holiday?
First of all, you were out of time, but I'm so glad we got that answer. 'Cause that ain't nothing.
I knew it was Jolly something.
Sing a couple bars of that, Brandon.
Yeah, give us
Jolly holiday. I don't know if I know that one.
Have a jolly holiday and a Merry Christmas. Hey.
Never. No.
Oh, is that like
You combined like 3 different songs together.
I know. I was gonna say it sounds like Boys to Men, but then
Yeah,
it sounded
it was a
little
deep
like-
cut. It was an album cut.
Hey.
The Boyz II Men Christmas album.
It was a jolly holiday. And plus, then, you know, that's part of the war on Christmas, but we'll talk about that later.
We got enough wars that we're battling
Yeah,
right now.
It's true.
All right, Felicia. Name 3 boy bands.
Oh, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and
There, you just said one a second ago and you missed it.
Boys to Men.
You didn't get it. You just said it. That's why I gave you that one. All right, we're 0 for 3 on this round. Krista
Woo.
can take a 2-1 lead if she gets this next.
I'll bring you
one.
back. I'll bring us back. Well,
All
myself
right. Name 3 board games.
Ooh.
back. Life, Clue, Monopoly.
Yeah!
Wow,
she got
that's
it.
good.
Good answer.
Shout out to
Good
quarantine for that. I've been playing a lot of board games.
answer. Good answer.
All right. Well, Krista has a 2-1-1-1 lead. All right. And we're going into the 3rd round. And we start with Diana Gutierrez. Name 3 supermodels. Go.
Adriana Lima. Oh my gosh. Why did you give me this one? Me and Felicia. And Chris.
Tyra Banks?
Good answer. Good
Cindy
answer.
Crawford. Come on.
Good answer.
Come on.
Tyra Banks,
Kendall Jenner?
Yeah.
Naomi Campbell.
Gigi
There we
Hadid.
All right,
Yup.
well, let's not all be mean to Diana. It's hard. That was a lot of talking for 2 people who also just didn't get any points last round. All right. Next up, we have got Miss Felicia. Oh, no, Brandon Pope's next.
What's up?
Jolly Holiday himself. Here, we go. Name 3 animals that have tails.
A tiger, a deer, and an alligator.
Yeah, yeah. Does a deer have a tail?
Yeah, it's like a little stub at
it's
the
a little
end.
bit-
I just like he went to alligator. Like my first thought is like dog and cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like, why did he not think cat, dog, and
I said tiger.
He got
We
a point.
also talk about like what animals don't have tails.
Birds.
They have tails.
That's a great
Birds have
point.
tails.
Humans
Come on,
don't.
come up with 3 animals that don't have tails. Go.
Humans.
We're animals.
Birds and
We are.
platypus. No, platypus has a tail. Okay.
Oh wait, the kid phrase on Facebook says, "Pope, can I get featured on that Jolly Holiday remix?"
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get it going.
It's
All right.
insane.
So we got Brandon got his second point. He ties Krista. Now it's Felicia's turn. All right, ready to go?
No. Okay, go.
All right. Name 3 Michael Jackson songs.
Oh, Thriller. Not Mary Jane.
Oh!
What's the song?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take your card, Felicia. You have to take your
Thriller.
card.
What's Mary Jane?
Mary
Billie
Jean.
It's
Wow.
Billie Jean.
Billie
Billie Jean.
You got Dirty
PYT.
Diana.
We're
You
taking
got
Felicia's card.
Pretty Young Thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
PYT. Okay.
All right.
Wow.
Well,
Rock with you.
you got Beat It.
okay. That round over.
Fun.
Krista has a chance to take a commanding lead here. All right. Are you ready to go, Krista?
I'm ready.
Name 3 spiky things.
A porcupine, a cheese grater, and a dinosaur.
Just 2.
Dinosaur.
Nope. Just got 2. Tell you what, guys. Felicia and Deanna Hanley have 1, so they are out. It's a tie-breaking round between Brandon and Krista to determine who the winner is because they each have 2 points.
Okay.
Deanna, you only
Okay.
have 1 point. I'm out. Sorry, you're
No,
out.
I don't. I'm not complaining. I just want to say that I didn't want to play anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
She was that kid in school.
Deanna, here's the lesson for you. Don't resign. Always get fired. You get a severance then. That's
Deanna says she's taking her ball and she's going home.
all right, Brandon, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do
Quick
it.
stretches.
I need the name of 3 professional sports stadiums.
Qualcomm, Brown, and Soldier Field.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I can't believe you went with Soldier. I'm surprised you didn't do Wrigley or Guaranteed Rate. But
I was just thinking.
wait, which one's Brown?
Paul Brown Stadium.
All Brown Stadium. All right, you went with
Hold
the
on.
stadium.
I'm going to Google that just to double check.
It's a classic, legendary Ohio stadium.
Please do that. Okay, all right. Krista Green to tie it
Yes.
up and send this thing to a double overtime.
Okay, I'm ready.
3 kinds of flowers.
Hydrangeas, daisies, tulips.
Boom! Wow!
That was a
All
good
right,
one.
we're going to do one more bonus round. I'm also going to time you this time, so we won't go further than this. Whoever gets the 3, if you both get 3 in this round, we're going to go with the lowest time to get the
Okay.
3. So this is it. All right?
Let's do it.
All right, Brandon. Name 3 different types of religions.
Judaism, Christianity, Jehovah's Witness.
All right, 3.85 seconds for Brandon. Felicia, write that down. 3.85 seconds. You have
Got
that.
it.
All right, Krista, you got to beat that. 3.85 seconds.
Tip of the tongue.
Okay.
Brown pops.
She's doing tongue exercises.
Name 3 presidents.
George Washington, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton.
3.56, Krista wins! She got it.
She gave first and last name.
Ah, she did it. She didn't just do Brown Stadium. You know, she went for it.
Any word.
I want to thank everyone out there. I want to thank our viewers. I'd like to thank my history teachers, my, science teachers for the spiky things, the animals, the flowers. Thank you all for former educators and all of you out there watching. I could not have done this without you.
That was a good speech too.
That was a decent speech.
That was
Well,
pretty.
guys, this was a lot of fun. I'm really glad. I like to host that one. I would not want to play that one. That's too much.
I know
hard.
that one's tough.
Hard.
Nice job.
It's a lot of
forever.
pressure.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got coming up tomorrow? I know we're talking to Chris Red in the 11 o'clock hour. SNL star,
My
comedian,
boy.
actor. Yeah, the last time we interviewed him, we had to interview him in the newsroom. Now it'll be over Zoom. So we're really rolling out the red carpet for him. So
Hey.
And then tomorrow at 2:30, we have the multi-talented actress, singer, songwriter, and YouTuber, Gabriela Carrillo.
Okay, now you guys catch us every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 2 p.m.
All right.
we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the hot weather, everyone.
Ciao.
What do I win?
You don't win anything. You win my pride.
You got it.